Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello and welcome on board this, folks, the Mayflower Garden. Now, as we leave the piers here in London, folks, it is a legal requirement for us crew members to pass on a very quick and short safety message. As this is not to scare, bore or alarm you in any way, just to make you more familiar with this boat. As I said, the name of this vessel is the Mayflower Garden. See, it's one of the oldest vessels in our fleet, made a return when the sun comes out. Now, all around this boat we do have life-saving equipment. This boat has a licence to carry up to 250 passengers. All around this boat, that life-saving equipment is stored in cupboards and boxes marked in the international green and cream stickers. And of course, us, your crew members, all fully trained to deal with any unlikely an event of an emergency. So in a very unlikely an event of an emergency today on our trip to Westminster, I'd like to wish you all the very best of luck, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Just seeing who's listening, good to see there's a couple. Of course, remain calm, stay seated and await further instructions from a member of the crew. Little show of hands please, who did understand anything we just passed on there in that safety message, just as we know for numbers, okay. About 10 people out of 138. At least I know which 10 people will be getting a life jacket in an emergency, so that's up to you. Now folks, of course remain calm, stay seated and await further instructions from a member of the crew over this PA system. Now on our way upriver, on board our boats today, you do have two options regarding a guide or a commentary. See our boats here at City Cruises, they are fitted with an automatic GPS guiding machine that does point out a few places and buildings of interest to you all. And it does point out these places of interest to you all in a very boring way. It's mainly promotion for the company, ladies and gentlemen. Sure, you haven't travelled to London today to know what flavour crisps they sell downstairs behind the bar. So your second option, I could stand out here with you lovely people and give you a form of a live commentary. Now we're not professionals, ladies and gentlemen, but it goes back through generations of our families to work as a captain on these boats. And it's kind of like our local knowledge, and we do get better feedback for passing on these live commentaries. So is that okay with you? Would you prefer a live commentary to Westminster? The same two people understood the safety message. Okay folks, so that's what we're doing. Just remember, we are not professional, and I'll try to talk nice, slowly and clearly so you can all try to understand me a little bit better. Just remember folks, I do not normally talk this slow. There is nothing wrong with me, okay? Just want you to understand. If you do have any questions on board this boat today, you can also keep those to yourself because I don't want to hear them. Alright? Toilets are at the back of the boat and a fully licensed bar. So we'll start off over to our right hand side. This blue glass building. A lot of people here in London call that the Tetris building as it has a funny shape to it. Now when the people, they come on the boats and they ask us what that building is, we do tell those lovely people we don't have a clue. But we have been told that is actually the head office for London's apprenticeship window cleaning team. Once they finish that building, they cross over to South London and they take on the Shard. That's their next project, folks. You've got to start somewhere. Last year, that was the tallest building to stand here in Western Europe. Over 1,017 foot tall. Home to the 5-star Shangri-La Hotel. Restaurants, casinos and apartments. Designed by an Italian architect called Renzo Piano. He was offered £2 million for designing that building. However, he did turn it down. He asked for the penthouse apartments on the 75th floor. He got his wish. He had that apartment for 1 year and then he sold it to make a profit of just over £45 million. Not bad considering all he had to do was draw a triangle on a piece of paper. Now this is London Bridge, ladies and gentlemen. This is the 5th London Bridge to span here across the River Thames. The Romans came to shore over 2,000 years ago now to build the original. After that, you may know the old nursery rhyme, one fell down, one sunk into the mud, one burnt down in the Great Fire of London, and the bridge before this is taken down stone by stone, brick by brick. Now stands over Lake Hamilton in the Arizona desert. Now over to your left hand side, you can see a gap in between the building of Pickford's wall, a back end of an old pirate ship. That is a working replica of Sir Francis Drake's Golden Hind, circled and navigated around this globe twice like the original. Now the original was put on task by Queen Elizabeth I to go around the Spanish Isles stealing gold and treasure. When it arrived back to the UK for the second time, had enough gold and treasure on board to get this country out of financial debts for the first, and probably no doubt, the very last time. Nowadays, the children can actually go on board that boat where they dress them up as pirates and they run around and play for a couple of hours. Now why the children do that? Mum and Dad, they just go to the pub next door where they do exactly the same thing. Here in London, folks, we do call that a traditional day out. Leave the kids with strangers and go get drunk. Works an absolute treat. I turned out half alright, so it went well. Now one for the adults, ladies and gentlemen. Over here to your right hand side, this is Cannon Street Railway Bridge. And underneath the arches of this bridge, you can see these glass box windows. This is a London's 5-star relaxation health spa. And they built it facing the river and not on the roadside to stop spying eyes looking in. I think they forgot about the boats that pass every few minutes, because sometimes when we pass, the majority of the time, we do get to see some semi-naked people relaxing and enjoying that spa. So if you are looking in those windows now, folks, you will believe me when I say this. Some days are much better than others. Some days the sights of that horrible you wish you never looked, believe me. They get that good sometimes, we'll even turn the boat around and go for another peek, that's how good it gets. They call the police, but we get away with it. Now over here to your right you can see this barge full of grey containers. This is where over 90% of London's rubbish is transported up and down the River Thames to help out with the congestion and traffic on our busy London streets. You can see the tide right now, it is currently leaving London. It leaves the city for 7 hours, later on it will flood for 5 hours. You can see the tidal height on the moss line on the river wall. You get a rise and fall of tide here of 6 to 8 metres every single day, and on a high tide that barge will be collected to take London's rubbish all the way downstream to a place called Essex. That is where all London's rubbish goes to. That is not a joke. We really do send our rubbish downriver to Essex, and why we do that? They send it back on our televisions throughout the day. That's how it works, basically. Vinters Hall here to your right hand side. The people who work inside of that building have the best job here in the City of London. They get to try all the wines, beers, spirits and alcohol that are put on sale in our shops and restaurants. See that man standing outside? He's been there for 2 weeks. He's waiting for a job. As I said, the best job here in London. Now over to your left you see the white rounded building with a thatched roof and oak beams down the centre. This is the 5th replica to stand on the south bank of William Shakespeare's Rose and Globe Pier. Took them over 20 years to get planning permission to build that building, ladies and gentlemen. After the Great Fire of London here in the city, no buildings were to be made from flammable material. Still to this day, you can go inside of that theatre and watch one of Shakespeare's many plays. The likes of Romeo and Juliet and all the others that no one else can ever remember, for just a small price of only £5. Very cheap for an old traditional play here in the capital of London. Now the bridge in front of us, this is the Millennium Footbridge, known to us Londoners as the Waterloo Bridge. Now it was given the name, the Waterloo Bridge, as it had its grand opening by Her Majesty the Queen in June 2000. It had its grand closing the very same day, just 3 hours later, by the Metropolitan Police. See, the bridge is swinging 4 foot from side to side. The architect, of course, didn't blame it on the way he designed his bridge, just how aggressively Londoners were walking across it on their morning commute to work. It was shut for another 1 year and another £7 million thrown at it. It's now safe to walk across at your own risk. Now the bridge in front of us, ladies and gentlemen, these are the Blackfriars Bridges. Now this is a newly constructed Blackfriars Railway Bridge, this first bridge. Constructed and was set to open in the year 2012 to get the sport fans into the city to watch the London Olympic Games. But of course, like most things here in London, it wasn't finished on time. It opened 2 years later, in 2014. But the roof, if you look up, has a funny shape to it, ladies and gentlemen. The roof on this station is fully solar panel, so the station gets over 75% of its incoming power from. And it only cost a small amount of £500 million to build and complete. Some of you may recognise this bridge from one of the latest Tom Cruise films, Mission Impossible 57, there's that many of them, where it runs across over to the south bank of the River Thames. You can see the old construction of the very first railway bridge that stood here, the Blackfriars Bridge with a red column at either side. These were the first to hold the gateway and settlement into the city of London. As we come through the Blackfriars Bridge, ladies and gentlemen, look over to your right hand side. You will see a building with a tall black chimney and a green sloping roof. That is the old City of London School for Boys, where most of the past of our PMs took up their early years of education, including Winston Churchill himself. It's now owned by J.P. Morgan, the American bank. If you have a keen eye, look underneath the green sloping roof, you can see 4 statues of figures of this country's finest men. Now from left to right, those statues are John Milton, Isaac Newton, William Shakespeare, and the one far right with a ball at the end of his foot, that's David Beckham, ladies and gentlemen. Just seeing who's still listening. Of course it's not David Beckham, because if you've ever heard Beckham speak before, you know he's never spent a day in school in his life. The old coffer dam over here, this is to rebuild the old Victorian time sewage system. Multi-billion-pound project, the biggest civil engineering project this country has ever taken on board. It's a massive tunnel that goes beneath the River Thames, all the way downstream. Now it's originally built to deal with a population here in London of just 2 million people. They now say here in the city there's a population of just over 10 million people. Now it is also a 6-year project. It's already 3 years behind schedule though, folks. And if you had a look at the working sites over there to your right as we pass, you'll probably understand why. Because there was no one working there. It's like that every single day. Now along the Victoria Embankment to your right hand side, underneath each black lamppost, can you all see those green lion's heads, ladies and gentlemen? There was an old flood warning indicator system for the old Metropolitan Police here in the City of London. If the water was up to the lion's mouth, they would evacuate all underground businesses, tube stations, getting everyone above the waterline to a much safer place. They did actually come up with a little rhyme to help them remember this point. If you think you know it, don't be shy, you're more than welcome to join in. They used to say, if the lions are drinking, London is sinking. If the water was up to the lion's mane, London would go down the drain. Well, I've come up with another one, I hope you'll all agree, mine's a little bit better. I like to say, if the lion's manes are ducks, London is well and truly flooded. A few children on board today, on my best behaviour. You can see the old St Catherine's Barge here with a black top and bottom. This was once upon a time the Royal Barge. Any members of the royal family wanted to take a trip out onto the Royal Highway, the River Thames. That is the barge they would use. It's now a floating bar and restaurant at Temple Pier. The Queen now uses a much smaller barge. She doesn't get on the river as much anymore due to her health and her age, but she uses a smaller barge called the Gloriana. It's currently moored up with her in Chelsea Reach. It's rowed about by Thames Queen's watermen like ourselves today on this ferry boat. Somerset House there to your right hand side, beautiful old Gothic style building, made and built for the Dukes and Earls of Somerset. It's actually inside of that building where they used to keep all the birth, marriage and death certificates for the whole country. And that's why that building got the nickname of the Hatcham, Matcham and the Spatcham buildings, ladies and gentlemen. Now this bridge is Waterloo Bridge. It is the longest spanning bridge here on the River Thames. It's over a quarter of a mile long. Also known here in London as the Ladies' Bridge, as it was built in the Second World War for over 95% female labour workforce. By the members of fighting for the King and country. Now over to your right again, you'll see another building, a white stone with a green roof and a flagpole in the middle. I'm sure some of you recognise that building from when you left there this morning. That's the back entrance to London's famous Savoy Hotel. Now for a river room for one night, it could set you back up to £2,000. For a river room at the top of the Green Suite for one night, it could set you back up to £20,000 per night, ladies and gentlemen. 20 grand a night. I'm not staying there either. They do make it worth it though, ladies and gentlemen. For 20 grand, you do get a full English breakfast and then very next day. So they're now to spoil you. You get 2 sausages instead of 1 for 20 grand. They're now to spoil you here in London. Now the bridge in front of us, a very unique bridge here on the River Thames. It's the only bridge we will pass under and over a railway line at exactly the same time. Charing Cross Station to the west end, to your right. Directly below the bridges and the Jubilee footwalks, you have the 2-part housing of the London Underground system, the Bakerloo and Northern Line. Now if there's people on these bridges, we do bid the hall. We ask you to wave at these people, ladies and gentlemen, even if there is only a couple up there. And I'll tell you for why we ask you to wave on this bridge in particular. Because if you get their hands waving, it will distract them from throwing things at you. And it happens all the time on this bridge, ladies and gentlemen. So just be wary if you're on a return journey later. You can actually tell a lot about the people here in London on our bridges. You see, if they wave back at you, this means they're having a lovely time. They're probably on holiday and enjoying their capital city. Don't worry if they ignore you. That just means they're from London and they're miserable. So don't take it to heart, folks. Over to your left you have the large observation room, the 5th largest in the world. We call that the London Eyesore, the London Eye, the Millennium Bridge. Now on a clear sunny day like today, from the very top pod of the London Eye, you can see up to 30 odd miles in all directions. That is as far upriver in front of us as Windsor Castle, and as far downstream behind us as the QE2 Bridge, the Dartford Crossing in Essex. Now it is made up of 32 glass pods. That is not a random number. It has 32 pods to represent the 32 boroughs here in London, ladies and gentlemen. It's now the 2nd most popular destination in the world to propose to a loved one, believe it or not. Does anyone know the first place? Paris, the Eiffel Tower. It's not the Eiffel Tower. It is this boat, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Eiffel Tower, you're right. You see, you can get on at the bottom of the London Eye with your loved one and 25 different strangers. It will take you 15 minutes to get to the top of the wheel, where they pronounce you man and woman. And I know it takes the fun out of it, gentlemen, but just make sure they go in to say yes first. It's a very awkward 15 minutes back down to the bottom, with 25 strangers laughing at you and someone who doesn't even love you. It's a long way down. Now just in front of the vessel and our next stop we have Westminster Abbey, the Houses of Parliament. Now the clock tower, you can see, just finished being under reconstruction. It had scaffolding around it for about 5 years. They are still taking it down. I don't know if anyone see a video online only the other day. They was taking it down with a crane and the big metal pole swung right into the clock tower after its £28 million refurbishment. So he probably got the sack. But it was renamed to the Queen Elizabeth Tower in the year 2012 to mark the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. Everyone all around the world, including myself, do refer to that building as Big Ben. Big Ben is just a name of the 13.5-ton bell that rings inside the clock tower. Now it's named after the architect who put it there. His name was Ben. A very short, round, loud, angry man. So when the bell chimed it made a lot of noise like his personality. We are told though, ladies and gentlemen, it is a very good job. They didn't name it after Ben's twin brother who helped him with the project at the time, because his name was Richard. couldn't call a big bell Big Richard overlooking London, could you? I'm glad some of you got that. Some of you may never get it. Don't worry yourself. Just don't Google it in front of your children, ladies and gentlemen. I will not be held responsible for that.